So we're all excited to hear about your different style of storytelling. This is a intro to video class. So we're interested in not only hearing about your process, but also about how you got to where you are and kind of what your day-to-day looks like. And we're in the stage now where we're looking to identify story subjects. So anything you could talk about that is very helpful too.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. Well, since I'm already sharing my screen, I got this video loaded up. I'll go ahead and press play. I think this is kind of a good example for those who are not familiar with my videos. If I've never popped up on your For You page, this gives you a good example of the kind of stuff that I do.
You ever seen those exit doors inside of the tunnels?
Of course you have. They're all over the place.
Well, have you ever wondered what's behind those doors? Let's find out. Hey, Jonathan, how are you?
Great.
This is Jonathan Gulliver, the head honcho of highways, the car czar, the master of Massachusetts Main
State Highway Administrator.
That's fine. I actually met him above ground at MassDOT's Highway Operations Center, which looks like a supervillain's hideout. There are 1,200 cameras all across the state of Massachusetts here, and they're watching.
We do get bikes in the tunnels once in a while.
Yep.
They get people walking through the tunnels. They're not supposed to be in there.
But that's exactly what we're going to do. Going down?
Yep.
The tunnels can all be accessed via vent buildings.
They're all over the place. A lot of them are just, they just become part of the landscape. Nobody even notices them there.
Others really stand out, like this one. Shout out to artist Pro Black. And this is New England, so I've never seen so many
Giant fans that drive all the air in and out.
Hello. I'm 6'3", of an inch. So these things are probably around 20 feet tall. And these underground rooms are almost the size of airplane hangars.
Reverb.
And the shafts are cold and dark. Shout out to my lighting crew here. Other rooms are lit and have things like emergency generators and water pumps. But of course, the main door we came down here for. So some observations. The sidewalks feel soft from all the dust and whatever else gets kicked up. And they do clean the tunnels every couple of weeks. Otherwise, you might not notice the color coding.
Brown tiles. That means that we're in an area that has earth above it. Blue tiles, that means you're underwater.
Plus, if you need to make a quick escape, you're not going to care how dirty the door may be, but you may find comfort in knowing that there are elevators back here.
Hopefully people see there's a lot more behind these tunnels than just a roadway. No radioactive turtles, though.
From the sidewalk in the O'Neill Tunnel, I'm Matt Shearer. For more on the underground, ask Alexa to play WBZ News Radio on iHeartRadio.
And listen to Traffic on the Threes. That's the quickest source of information.
So it's funny. I had played that clip at another class that I was speaking to at a different college, which will remain unnamed. The professor was a very accomplished journalist, but kind of, I guess you could say, of a different generation of news and stuff like that. And he watched it and immediately asked in front of the class, he was just like, now, is this journalism or is this entertainment? And my answer was kind of just, well, why can't it be both? Like, why can't journalism be entertaining, right? Like, at the end of the day, what we're doing in the world of journalism is telling stories, and storytelling is like the oldest form of entertainment. So why not, especially with a story like this, which is more just kind of like a fun little curiosity piece, why not just have a little bit of fun with it? And so that's what I try to do with a lot of my stories. You'll notice I do a lot of videos that are kind of like that, sort of feature-y stories. I do delve into real news every once in a while. Real news, sorry. I know that my boss hates it when we distinguish fun features from real news. It's like, who's to say what is real news and what isn't? But I mean, it's true. I get to do a lot of the light stuff while my colleagues who are really, really great cover some of the more pressing stuff and serious matters, the types of stories where you can't be making Ninja Turtle jokes. So but it's fun, and I like to do that. I like to stand out and do this. So I guess we might as well now talk a little bit about how I got here to where I am. And it goes back to growing up in Acton, Massachusetts. I was really lucky to have a little radio station at my high school. With like, a 1 mile broadcast range. So, people leaving the parking lot of the high school and coming back in could listen to it. Nobody else could. But I fell in love with it. It was just so much fun for a number of reasons. One, I just love the magic of radio being, say like you're driving in your car late at night, and even if it's a podcast you're listening to or an actual live radio broadcast, whether it be FM or AM, you turn on the radio and suddenly it's like you're not alone in that car anymore. It's like you have a passenger in the front seat with you and they're telling you a story and keeping you entertained while you're just kind of on this long, boring ride. And then, when I finally got that opportunity to hop on the mic at my high school radio station, I could be that guy. I could be that companion, even if it was just the people who were in the cafeteria being forced to listen to me. At least I got to be that person sitting next to them when they were lonely at the table, I guess. I don't know. It was exciting for me. So, you talk to a lot of people in journalism and they'll tell you that, their passion is the news and that's what they wanted to do. And for me, it was the medium. It was radio that got me into all this. So I ended up doing an internship while I was still in high school at an alt-rock radio station. I went to Emerson College and studied it. They have a really great college radio station there. I worked there for a while. While I was still a student at Emerson, I started working part-time at a commercial radio station, but I was working the overnight shift. So 3 nights a week from midnight till 6 a.m. I would be at this pro station. And then I would go into class like during the day after being up all night. And then I would do my college radio shows, which were from like 6 to 10 a.m. and midnight till 3. It was crazy. I barely slept in college. But as I'm sure you all could agree, this is the time in your life where you can get away with that. You could do that. For a while, I was drinking caffeine. You could catch me with like a Red Bull in one hand and like a coffee in the other. But then I quit caffeine altogether, probably when I was like 22. I got my wisdom teeth taken out and I was just like sitting at home on painkillers and I was like, I haven't had caffeine in a couple days. Let's see how long I can keep this going. And now I'm in my 30s and I still don't drink caffeine. So it's crazy. One thing you'll find, and this ties into what I was just saying with that overnight shift, and if you are going to go into a career in journalism or broadcast media of any kind, at some point you're going to work some pretty weird hours. Because if you think about it, prime time on the radio is when everybody's in their car, which is on their way to work and on their way home from work. Prime time in TV is while people are getting ready for work or when they're settling down after a long day of work at home. So yeah, if you want to be on the air at the times where everyone's listening to you, you kind of got to either wake up early or stay up late. Or work the kind of job that I have where, you file a story that's not really timely and it can air at any time of day. And I now work 8 to 4, which is amazing. I've got 2 little kids at home. It gives me the flexibility to be able to play with them. And I realize I'm skipping a few steps here. Let's go back to where I was. After I graduated from college, my first full-time job, actually, I should mention I was still working like those part-time gigs at the radio station throughout college. And so when I graduated, the full-time gig wasn't there right away. I ended up moving out of my apartment in Boston, back home with my parents for a few months. Really glad I did. I saved a ton of money that way. And then eventually was in the right place at the right time and got offered my first full-time job as a associate producer on the talk radio station. Not at all what I wanted to do with my career. I kind of wanted to be the cool rock music radio DJ guy, but it was the first opportunity that was there for me. And I'm really glad I took it because I learned a lot. And, it gave me some sort of journalism adjacent experience that would later come in handy when I was going to get this job. But before I go too much beyond that, I do want to say being in the right place at the right time is such a huge part of this. And I know that it sounds like, then, everything's kind of up to chance, but it's not really. Like, sure, you don't really have control over timing, when that right time will be, but you do have control over being in the right place. So if you can put yourself in a position to be working that little part-time job while you're still in college, or, even if it's an internship, whatever it may be, just to be there and rubbing elbows with the right people, that's exactly what happened to me. I was going to work a gig for the radio station, and the person who was driving me over there happened to be the program director of the talk radio station, and she really liked me and saw potential in me and offered me that job. And so that was great. I worked at that station until that flipped format. That's radio terminology for went out of business. So I ended up looking around for other jobs. Actually, I was lucky enough to be able to keep working there at the news station that came in because I was one of the only people in the building that knew how to run all the equipment. So let this be another lesson for you in your careers, is be as well-rounded as possible. You know, just like listen to people in the room, take whatever opportunities you can get so that you learn all these little skills, because you never know when they're going to come in handy. Eventually, I got another job as a top 40 music an executive producer of a morning show at a top 40 station, I should say. So the morning show is very entertainment driven, kind of doing a lot of comedy bits, going out on the street, silly like pranks and fun stuff like that. And I did that for 7 years until the pandemic happened and that station flipped formats. And, you know, suddenly I found myself at this horrible time to be doing what I do because, you know, it's the pandemic. No one was driving to work. No one was in their cars listening to the radio. So no radio stations wanted to hire new talent, knowing that advertisers weren't going to be spending money. The advertisers didn't have any money to begin with. So I'm at home. Nobody's hiring. I have a new baby. It's kind of a scary time. No one knows what's going on in the world. And eventually I get a call from WBZ News Radio, where I work now, because, you know, amidst all the chaos, they were one of the only stations that was still doing really well because people were tuning in for really important information about the pandemic, about the election that was coming up. And so they were hiring somebody. They were hiring a reporter. It's nothing I'd ever done before, but I said, all right, you know what? Sure. Let's give it a try. What they said that really convinced me that it was the right job for me is that they weren't just looking for another journalist with a capital J. You know, they had enough of the people who were kind of all telling stories the same way and sounding the same and looking the same. And they wanted somebody who could think a little bit different. And that really spoke to me as somebody who I consider myself kind of a creative person. So I, you know, I was like, yeah, well, let's give this a try. And I'm so glad I did, because it's like the best job I've ever had. You know, I'm in a different town every day, meeting different people. I'm not stuck in an office, stuck at a desk. And I just love it. And I get to be creative, and they let me be creative. The whole TikTok thing came about maybe a year into the job, when my boss came to me and said, hey, we want to get the station TikTok account up and running. And I was really skeptical at first, right? Because we're this 100-year-old AM news radio station. I'm like, what, you want us on TikTok now, trying to fit in with the kids and like doing cool trends and like memes and whatnot? And I was like, oh, we're just going to come off as really cringy. But I was like, okay, you know what? How about we just do what we're already doing on the air, which is telling compelling stories in 45 seconds or less, and just try and do that in video form. So the earliest videos that I was doing was literally just my audio from the radio, and I would slap B-roll on top of it and just put it out there and see what would happen. Not very engaging or exciting videos, but once in a while, one of them would start to get a little bit of traction, and it made me kind of see the potential for growth there. So I started experimenting and playing around with it and having a little bit more fun, and it's grown, you know, and we've only been doing this a couple of years now, and we're up to, I don't know, what is it, 170 something thousand followers, all organically, without ever begging people to follow us, without ever paying for promoted posts, all just by putting up consistently solid content that people can get excited about. We're not trend chasing either. That's something I'm really proud of. No shame or disrespect to the companies that want to do that. You know, they see, oh, look, this silly dance thing is trending, or this meme is trending. Let's do our version of that. Because in my mind, while sure, it makes it look like maybe you're in touch, it also just kind of blends in with everybody else. And I don't want us to blend in on social media. I want us to stand out. And I think that's what grows a following. You know, if you see somebody doing just like another trend video, you're probably less inclined to follow them than if you see somebody doing something that's so genuinely different and unique, and you say to yourself, oh, I want more of that. That's what's going to get you to smash that follow button. So yeah, so that's kind of where I am today. Should I show another video real quick, or
Go ahead, Sarah.
Hi, Matt. It's great to talk to you. You said posting consistently really got you that following and consistent audience. How often do you post? Every day, multiple times a day? Like, what's your posting schedule like?
That's a good question. I am not a believer in posting every day. I know you'll talk, if you take any social media classes or marketing classes, there will be people that tell you that you should post every day. You want to be consistent. And I understand that logic. I can see how, you know, even if you get let me start this over. I see a lot of people who have bigger followings than me on social media posting every single day, but their posts have far less engagement, right? And it's because they're posting constantly, and either I don't know if it's that people are sick of it or they just feel like they don't really need to post. Whereas like I'm more of the philosophy of let's wait till you have something that's actually worth watching, then post it up. So right now I'm on a cycle of like 3 posts a week. I have some friends who are straight up like big time, I don't want to say influencers, but they have big followings on social media of like millions or more. And they have told me the same thing. Like they'd rather post when they have something good, whether it's 3 times a week or sometimes less. Honestly, in the past couple of weeks, there's been a lot going on in my personal life, so I haven't been able to keep up with that. I've been like on a 1 or 2 a week loop, which isn't great. But luckily at least on the WBZ TikTok account, which is shared with other reporters, they're able to put some stuff up too. But yeah, I really don't like the idea of just putting stuff up for the sake of putting stuff up. That's how you train your viewers and followers that your stuff isn't always going to be great. You want to be the kind of person who posts and then somebody sees your stuff come up and they stop whatever they're doing, turn the sound on and sit down and watch it. That's what I want. So, I don't always accomplish that, but yeah, so that's my philosophy. That's a long answer to your very simple question. I hope you don't mind.
No, that's really good advice. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Melissa had another question. Go ahead.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So I was curious what your crew looks like when you go out and you do these interviews. Like, is it just you? Is it you and like one other person? How does that work with you?
Yeah, my crew looks just like this. It is all me. I go out with a microphone in one hand and my phone in the other. Being a radio station, I really want the sound to be really good. And this is something that I definitely wanted to talk about at some point, and we'll elaborate more on this as I talk today. But with an audio production background and a radio production background. I very much believe in the value of sound. So I have 3 different microphones that I work with on a daily basis. I can run through those for you. And they're hooked up to a external digital recorder that's made by this company called Zoom. Not the same Zoom that we're using now, but it's like an audio company. And then everything for video wise is just shot on my phone because it's not going to be broadcast on TV on people's 55-inch 4K TVs. It's going to be on people's cell phones. So I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of picture quality in exchange for convenience. And I also think there's a little bit of an authenticity there that comes with that, which is nice. I think my stuff kind of looks more, in line with what you'd see when you swipe through social media, just because of the fact that it's shot on my phone. One thing that I see a lot of TV stations kind of struggle with the aspect ratio. And I don't mean this in a critical way. I think they're doing the right thing by shooting really nice with really good cameras, and editing it horizontally. But it creates a problem when you go to put it up on social media where everything is vertical, because then you have to decide, am I going to crop this video or am I going to put it up horizontally and have all that wasted space in between? So for my purposes, being at a radio station where it doesn't really matter, I just shoot in video right away on my phone. So yeah, it's all me shooting, recording, and editing and posting. From start to finish, it's all me.
Oh, we got another question in the room. Yep, go ahead.
So, what would you say your creative process looks like for coming up with new story ideas? And what would you say you do in like times where ideas aren't coming in as much as you'd like them to be?
Yeah. So, we have a meeting every single day, all of us reporters, an assignment meeting. It's done virtually over Microsoft Teams, and we all go through what we're working on and we all pitch an idea. So that kind of forces me every single day to come up with a new idea. They're not always going to be great ideas, but sometimes they lead to good ideas. But also I think it's a good exercise in just getting your brain to think that way, to always be looking out for new ideas. And I make it difficult for myself in that I don't want to steal other ideas from other newsrooms. We have a lot of reporters who are very much plugged into their local newspapers, and they say, oh, that's an interesting story. Maybe it would be great for us to do a radio version of that story or something. And I understand that. And the logic makes sense. But for me, I feel more fulfilled when I'm coming up with a totally original idea on my own. So I challenge myself to do that. And sometimes it's just being out and about in the world and seeing something, like driving through a tunnel and being like, huh, I wonder what's behind those doors. Or sometimes, the newsroom may come up with an idea and they'll hit me up. An editor will say, hey, did you see this thing that's going on? Sounds like an event that you'd be really great at. But a lot of times now, which is great, for the fact that we've built up this following on social media, people will DM me ideas. And I love that, because it's like now I have eyes and ears all across the region telling me about cool things. So, yeah, so basically that's where the ideas come from. And then it's just a matter of executing them. Sometimes it's just as easy as just going out and talking to a bunch of people on the street, and then you don't need to book anything in advance or do any sort of prep work. Other times you need to actually book the interviews, like I did with the What's Behind the Doors. I don't think it would have been as successful of a story if I had just like pulled over in the side of the tunnel and opened the emergency doors. So I booked that through the Mass Department of Transportation, and we found a date and a time, and I went there and I shot it, and that was all good. Other times I have these really big, elaborate ideas that take a lot of work behind the scenes. Maybe we could watch one of those ideas right now. I'll give you an example. The first one that came to mind. I hope I'm not being redundant. I hope if you've already seen this one, but this is one where I was walking. Hang on, let me find this first. Here it is. I was walking through Boston one night for kind of a funny reason, which I may be able to get to at some point. But I heard a woman singing on the street, and I decided to stop and start recording her because I had my gear with me, and ended up starting a conversation with her and learned a little bit about her story, and was so fascinated by it, and decided to turn it into something for the air that I think does kind of go beyond what you'd see in traditional journalism, but it was worth it. So here, you can all see this, right? Let's jump into it. Let me turn this down, actually, because maybe that'll balance out my sound a little better.
Yes.
Sometimes dreams do come true. 2 days earlier,
Dashing through the snow.
I met Ara B.
When I'm sad, I sing. When I'm happy, I sing. The worst thing that I can do for myself is not sing. All the way. Hey, hey.
Because underneath that golden voice is a story of struggle,
Homeless is not hopeless.
heartbreak,
I was brave enough to conquer an abusive relationship.
grief,
My father passed away on Christmas Eve.
and never giving up on a dream.
I hope for Christmas. I miss you, Daddy.
Can I give you a hug?
Please. How much this means to me that you've stopped to take time to talk to me.
But something else she said got me thinking.
I'm looking for a studio. I have a song.
So 2 days later,
Do you want me to sing it?
Well, I'm taking you to a recording studio.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
No.
I'm serious. We're going to the Record Co. in Dorchester. I have a professional audio engineer.
Yes.
You're gonna love this place.
I can't believe this. Can I just get a chance to get on my knees and say thank you
Of course.
to the Most High God for this opportunity to record my music?
the staff at the Record Co. really gave Ara the rock star treatment, especially Carlos
No one should be limited by any circumstance.
and Bobby.
The stories mean the world to us. We're a nonprofit music space, so people that really need to come in here and get that out, because to me, music is therapy.
Our engineer was the multi-talented multimedia artist Bern Herm.
She has a beautiful voice. She has passion behind what she's saying.
Bring me back to life.
That was amazing.
I'm here, it's happening. Oh my gosh.
Then we needed music. So I just went down the street to my neighbor's house. He's a multi-instrumentalist and producer called Gasoline Monk.
Never seen someone just get plucked off the street and brought into a studio and everything that you're doing. So this is like a Hallmark movie.
The final result is a dark, gritty love song about falling for someone in an unhealthy way. How it can be both toxic and intoxicating.
This is more than I ever dreamt of and
And
imagined.
it's already up on Bandcamp, so you can stream it for free or pay whatever you want to download it. 100% of that money goes to Ara.
Thank you for believing in me, Matt. It means the world to me, man.
In Boston, I'm Matt Shearer. For more, ask Alexa to play WBZ News Radio on iHeartRadio.
You know, there's a lot of things that will try to take the wind out of your sails in life. We're just meant to persevere.
So now I know this probably goes against a lot of things that you learn about in journalism class about staying out of the story and things like that. And I understand that. I just felt like in this particular case, it was so worth it to take the journalism hat off for a second and just be a human being. And like I genuinely had these connections to make her dream come true. When she said her dream is to get into a recording studio and record this song, I was like, oh, I can make that happen. And I'm so glad I did, because this isn't like some grandiose, like, look at me giving her all this money. I didn't, like it was all free. Everybody volunteered their time, which was, by the way, unbelievably generous, especially of the music producer. The fact that, cause he put in a lot of work to make that song. And yeah, I mean, it was just one little thing that really made a huge difference in her life. And there is a part 2 to this video, like a follow-up. Do you want to see the follow-up real quick?
And Matt, maybe talk about what kind of feedback you've gotten on these stories too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that one in particular, by the way, ended up going national because CBS Evening News and CBS Sunday Morning aired their version of it. They sent the legendary reporter Steve Hartman up to Boston to interview me and Ara, and kind of told the story of that friendship. Because that's what it is. It became a friendship. I'm still friends with Ara to this day. We talk, meet up for coffee every once in a while. Yeah, here's part 2. I think you'll appreciate it.
We have an even happier ending to an already joyful story. There's the superstar. Oh my gosh. Quick recap. Ara B is an amazingly talented singer that I found living in the streets of Boston. I'm taking you to a recording studio.
Are you serious?
With the help of some very talented friends, we recorded her original song and threw it up on Bandcamp this week.
Back to life.
Which brings us to now.
Matt.
That is the money that you earned. In just one day, her song raised thousands of dollars. And it gets better.
Need vocal warm-up?
Oh.
Our friends at Duncan heard Ara's story and invited her to perform with the Boston Pops at Logan Airport. That's not even the best part. First, let's go back to last week. There was something I didn't tell you about Ara.
I cried today. I'm going to miss my daughter's birthday. She's in Florida.
She hasn't seen her daughter in 2 years.
My dream.
Well, until now.
Everybody, this is Ara's daughter, Jayara.
Jayara is an amazing human, 23 years old, going to school, working long shifts as a server to pay for it, and worried sick about her mom.
I love you so much, Mom. I'm so proud of you. When you reached out to me, I thought you were like a scammer dude.
I get that a lot. When I told Duncan about her, they didn't even hesitate to book her on the next flight to Boston.
So much.
And I told Jayara how much money her mom's song had earned.
Yeah.
Blessing.
We're going shopping for Christmas. I get to get you a Christmas
No,
present and
I
a
don't even
birthday
want anything.
present.
This time that I have with you is better than any other gift I could ever see.
Oh, and there's more.
The 5 o'clock news.
Another one.
She and you have plans for 9 o'clock to go on Kiss 108, Boston's #1 hit music station.
Ara already knew about that.
Oh, serious?
But first, a much deserved girls' night out on the town.
Literally, I could not be more. I don't know how to thank you guys and repay you guys for this. I don't know what to do, but thank you so much.
In Boston, I'm Matt Shearer. For more, ask Alexa to play WBZ News Radio on iHeartRadio.
Wait, can I hug you?
You can hug me right now.
Okay, thanks.
All right. All right, get in this. Sorry about that. So that was that's something that was just so unbelievably satisfying. And the whole reason I'm playing that at this point in the conversation right now is because you had asked about like the process. And some of these stories, I just go out and record it and it's really quick, but other ones like that, there are so many moving parts and they take days, weeks. I had to coordinate a lot of different things there. The music, the recording session, the flight, finding her daughter online and who her daughter does not have a very big social media presence. So that was a challenge. And, convincing her that I wasn't some scammer dude and, she could totally fly up to Boston on Dunkin' Donuts budget. By the way, this was not something that I didn't get paid by Dunkin'. Dunkin' didn't pay for that piece at all, but they wanted to help out after hearing about our story. And so they offered to fly up JR. And I was like, yeah, sure. Why the hell not? If a big corporation wants to pay the bill for this, let's do it. Let's go. So, it was extremely satisfying and just a great story. I understand, again, I got myself involved in the storytelling, but at the end of the day, it was Ara's song. I didn't give her any money. Duncan didn't give her any money. They certainly paid to put her and her daughter up in a nice hotel for a couple days. And they got gave them tons of gift cards and stuff, but that didn't really cost too much to them. But the real prize was all the money Ara made off of her own song. She made in a month, she made $9,000 off the song, where most people were paying $1 for it. So, that's pretty solid, and it's still going up. It's still, as the video continues to go around, she's still making a little bit of money from that. So that was nice. I could play some more videos too. Does anyone have any questions up till this point?
We got a couple from in the room here. Go ahead.
I was wondering, you said you can work some crazy hours and obviously you have a lot of people that you have to stay in contact with in order to get projects done. How do you balance your home and your work life, or do you just not really and have them just be a combination?
That's a great question. Yeah. Oh man, it's tough. I got to admit, it's something that I'm still trying to master and perfect, is that work-life balance, especially because, my life is changing. When I started doing all this job, I had 1 kid. Now I have 2. And, I'm finding that that's a lot to handle. My wife also works full time. She's a high school English teacher. So, she works long hours, and when she gets home, she has papers to grade, and it's it's a lot. And for a while, there was a time where I was posting a video every single day, 5 days a week. I was posting a video, and it took more hours than my regular 8-hour shift to be able to pull that off. And I didn't want to take time away from my kids. So, I ended up having to take away time from my sleep. And that was just not healthy. And it got to a point where I had a conversation with my bosses and I was like, guys, I'm kind of killing myself here. And they were like, we never asked you to post 5 videos a week, but you were doing it and we weren't going to tell you to stop. But we don't want you to kill yourself over this. So seriously, just take it easy, relax. And I'm glad I did. So that's why I slowed down the posting, rather than post 5 whatever videos a week, post 3 meaningful videos. That's kind of what we were talking about before. It's still a challenge, but I just have to constantly remind myself that, I can't produce at a high level if I'm constantly sleep deprived and living an unhealthy lifestyle.
We had another question from in the room.
Yeah, this might be a little bit similar to one of the last ones, but how do you go about finding a story? How do you know where to start and if it's a story worth reporting?
That's a good question. yeah, I mean, the stories, like I said before, come from all over the place, DMs, ideas I have on my own. And I don't know. I guess to determine whether or not it's worth reporting, I kind of feel like I have to have like a vision for it myself. Like, there are some stories that I hear about and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's definitely a story that's worth being mentioned on the air. Maybe someone else can kind of do it, but I just don't really see how I can make that like a worthwhile fun video for myself to do. Cause I don't know. My philosophy has always been like, if I'm not having fun doing it or making it, then like, why should I expect people to have fun watching it? So, that's important to me. There are times where, I'll go out and cover a story and it's like such a non-important story, like that doesn't really matter at all. But then next thing you know, it blows up and goes viral. I can play you a quick example of a story like that. Okay. This story went viral last year. One of the ones that definitely helped kind of put me on the map. Maybe this was this might have been 2022. But here, let's share that screen and I'll play this one for you. And again, this is a story that probably would not have, most newsrooms would not have cared about it, but I decided to do it.
There are 351 municipalities in Massachusetts and 1,073 Dunkin' locations. Billerica has 3 on Boston Road, but further down 495, the town of Stowe is a Dunkin' desert.
There is no more Dunkin' Donuts in Stowe.
Absolutely none.
Those bastards.
Up until this year, they had 2. Now they're both closed. Neighbors are handling it like you might expect.
Yeah, it sucks. There's nothing fun to do, and Dunkin' Donuts was the one place where everyone likes to go.
Bummed out.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I've been traveling further away to go to Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How far do you have to travel now?
Over a mile and a half.
That's ridiculous.
These days, you got to go around to Hudson. You got to go to Sudbury. Got to leave the state. I mean, not the state. You got to leave Stowe, though.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Some are finding refuge at the 2 Dunks in Maynard, much to the dismay of Maynardians like Michael.
Especially if people are coming from Stowe, they're going to come through here on their way to work. Then I get held up for work.
But back in Stowe, a town with an airport, 3 golf courses, and some horses, they just want solutions.
Don't live in Stowe anymore.
You think it's worth moving out because there's no Dunks?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sad. Sad for the people of Stowe. Oh, and for this bee.
I copy. From the drive-thru, I'm Matt Shearer. For more Dunks drama, ask Alexa to play WBZ News Radio on iHeartRadio.
Excuse me? So that's a video that I posted thinking to myself, like, nobody is going to care, right? Like outside of Stowe. But I think there's also a relatability factor there, right? Like if you're from Massachusetts or from New England at all, you understand how like losing all your Dunkin' Donuts in your town in a matter of months just it completely throws off your daily routine. It's like a lifestyle change. You have to figure out like, oh, what am I going to do now? And so I think part of the reason why that story blew up so much is people outside of Massachusetts were like, oh my God, look at these people in their Dunkin' Donuts. It was almost like a spectacle for them. So I did a follow-up on that story, actually. At the time, it was very rare that I was doing follow-ups, but I felt like this one warranted it. Not nearly as dramatic or exciting as the Ara, the singer one, but here it is.
Last week, I shared the heartbreaking story of Stowe, a town that lost both of its Dunkins this year.
I was pretty depressed about it, really sad.
It was awful.
What's your message to Dunkin' Donuts?
Get back. Get your crap together. We need it.
Then my story went viral with coverage everywhere from international media outlets to Stowe Public Access TV.
Stowe is now being called a Dunkin's desert.
It was parodied on TikTok.
One of their 27 Dunkin' Donut coffee shops was closed.
Yeah, I thought it was a dream. Like that one where I kissed Randy Moss.
And Stowe resident Caracillo even started selling t-shirts about it.
This is amazing.
So this week, I returned the favor, donating donuts to the Dunks list.
I love the color. I love the donuts. I love all the food. I love Dunkin' Donuts. Where are you?
How's it taste?
Good.
Are you okay with the coconut? And even some for town administrator Denise Demkowski.
Hi.
I'm Matt from WBZ News Radio. I brought you a present. And she shared with me some exciting news.
Dunkin's corporate office has reached out. They want to do a pop-up in town sometime next week. They are feeling the pressure as well.
When asked whether the saga would have a happy ending, she said,
To be continued.
From the Dunkin' Desert of Stowe, Massachusetts, I'm Matt Shearer. You can keep up with this developing story by asking Alexa to play WBZ News Radio on iHeartRadio. Does it help you feel better about the fact that you don't have a Dunks here?
No. So the Dunkin' Donuts.
What's your name?
David, my son's mother. She can't go without it. So I'm just like,
Sorry. Yeah, I swear I don't always do Duncan related stories, and they don't just get a ton of free publicity about me. It's kind of coincidental that those last two stories, or last three, I guess I showed you, have all been Duncan related. But yeah, no, I mean, again, that's a story that I think most newsrooms probably wouldn't have cared about, but they're very real stories to all of us, right? Like, that's the fact that that was like the hugest thing in the world to that small town. Like, I don't know, we need to go tell some of those stories in these small towns more often, right? Like, they're the stories that actually affect people in a huge way on a daily basis. So any more questions before I show any other videos? Yeah.
Hi. I was wondering if you have any tips for during interviews and kind of like making the conversation flow, because it sounds like a lot of your conversations go really, really well.
Thank you. That's a great question. So I have a lot of experience recording like on the street interviews. I think that's part of the reason why I was maybe qualified for this job. You know, between my last job where I was doing kind of silly stuff on the street to also working at the talk radio station where I was going out and, you know, getting opinions from people on the stories that, you know, matter. But yeah, I think a big part of it is just making those people feel not intimidated when you're talking to them, you know, like be real and genuine and have a conversation. I usually like to kind of joke around with them a little bit. Excuse me, and be like, hey, you know, can I talk to you on the radio real quick? Oh, is it okay if I film it for social media? How are you? You know, I don't know. I can't think of an example of something funny I might like joke about with them. It all depends on the context and the people that I'm talking to, and also just be like looking at them. Don't be just like looking down at your phone or the camera while you're recording, you know, just actually listening to them, have eye contact and pay attention to what they're saying and process it and ask follow-up questions. Follow-up questions are what really lead to the great stuff. Like when you dig deeper and deeper, oh, really, I don't like, why are you so upset that you don't have Dunkin' anymore? Why is it so much worse that you have to drive all the way to Maynard now? And, you know, like when they have to then like explain themselves, that's when you get to the real good stuff. Also, don't go in with too many like prepared questions and think like, oh, I'm going to stick to these questions, because if you're just going down a list of questions that you've prepared, then you're not even going to be listening to what they're saying. You're just going to be waiting for them to finish talking so that you can ask your next question. Like, it's good to have an idea in mind of where you're going to go with the conversation and, you know, to have one or two questions in mind that you definitely want to get to, sure. But, you know, just be willing to kind of go with the flow of the conversation and, you know, don't cut them off if they're getting to something really good. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yeah, it does. Thank you very much.
Of course.
We got another from in the classroom.
Yep.
So I was curious how you take these interviews and cut them down to be short enough for TikToks, or just cut them down in general, because that's something I'm currently struggling with, is getting my interviews to a short amount of time that people will actually want to listen to.
Yes. Oh, that's a great question. And it is a constant struggle. You know, you have so much stuff that you're like, oh, this would be good. This would be good. But, you know, if you include all of it, then the video is just too long and it's too boring. And, you know, you want to keep it moving. So I think you just have to allow yourself to be willing to leave some people on the cutting room floor that, you know, don't worry about like hurting anyone's feelings if you don't include them in the final video, because it's much more important that the people who are watching the video are fully engaged. The potentially millions of people who are watching the video are fully engaged, as opposed to the one person who you interviewed who didn't really say anything all that worthwhile. You know, in this day and age, we're competing against everything that people could be doing with their time, right? They could just as easily close out everything on their phone and watch Netflix, or they could, I don't know, go play a video game. They are choosing to watch your video, so you better make it worth their time. I think sometimes just like getting up, walking away, returning to the video a day or two later can help, because then you'll notice the parts where the video really lags. Sometimes if I'm really in a rush and I post something up, I'll go back and rewatch it later and think, oh, I wish I had cut out that part. I wish I had I'm usually so much more disappointed by the stuff that I left in than the stuff that I cut out. So, something to keep in mind is just short and sweet is better than long and boring. Asking somebody to sit through, like, those last couple videos you watched, think, how long was this one? A minute and a half? Yeah, like, that sounds short in the grand scheme of like journalism, but on social media, asking someone to sit through a minute and a half long video is like asking them to watch Titanic twice. It's a big ask. So you got to make it at least move. Those Ara videos, the ones with the singer in Boston, those were each 3 minutes apiece. And I felt like it was justified in order to like tell the story properly. But normally I wouldn't try to make a video that long.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Haley, you had a question?
You guys can't hear me. Hi. So quick question. So we have all probably taken handful of journalism classes here at UNH, but for me, this is like my first quote unquote video journalism class there is, and just finding subjects is already taking me, like, I'm more comfortable with it now, like interviewing people, but now like a lot of the process, I feel like, and my question is like, how do you make people comfortable on camera? Because like I like started to reach out to people around like school and around other areas, and most people are on board with it, but some people are like, yeah, the idea sounds nice, but I'm very camera shy.
Yeah, and I think that's just a thing that you'll kind of grow to understand, is that most people don't have the time to stop and talk on camera, and that's fine. Honestly, that's understandable. Like, we're human beings with busy lives. Like, to just drop everything that you're doing and where you're going to stop and talk to somebody who you don't necessarily know what they're going to do with the video in this day and age. I think people are rightfully skeptical of someone with a camera out on the street. Like, what's their goal? What's their agenda, right? Like, are they going to make fun of me? What's going on here? So I think you just have to kind of take that answer, get used to hearing no. I do, honestly, most of the time. Most people don't stop and talk to me when I'm in Boston. I'll say, hey, can I talk to you on the radio real quick? No, sorry. Okay, no problem. Boom, on to the next person. Hey, can I talk to you? Don't get yourself so fully committed on talking to one person. And also, picking locations where you can do these interviews is so important. Pick locations where there's going to be a lot of people. I understand that some stories you need to be in one particular very specific location, and then it's just kind of, you luck out or you don't luck out when people are there, when there's foot traffic. But if you have the option to go to a place where there's a lot of people walking around, that's so much better, because then you're going to have, first of all, a variety of different perspectives, people who, may have lived different experiences than you, that can respond to a certain story. But also, when someone says no, you'll just be able to go, okay, no problem, turn around, and there's another 12 people that you could potentially talk to. So, I actually haven't been up to UNH ever, so I don't know what the area is like up there. But I mean, anywhere where there's even just a grocery store, to go into the parking lot and talk, there's always people walking in and out of a grocery store, or like a Target or something. Sometimes they may kick you out, and that's fine. You say, okay, no problem, I'll leave. If you're near a big city where there's a downtown area where you get a lot of foot traffic and public transportation, great, that you're golden. Boston has a few locations like that. So, that helps. That helps a lot.
No, we got another question from in the room.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is kind of a I guess a silly question, but how do you get used to like hearing your own voice on recording? Because that's something really struggling with.
Yeah, no, that is a great question, because it's I don't know, I guess it's something I still kind of struggle with a little bit, but I also have been doing this for a long, long time, like it was more than 20 years ago that I first got on the mic at my high school radio station at this point. So I guess I've kind of gotten used to it, but even still not so much, because there's actually science behind this. You hear your voice differently than other people because you're hearing the sounds of the vibrations coming from your vocal cords through the bones in your body, right? Like, and that gets up to your ear canal where your eardrums are, and it sounds very different by the time it hits your eardrums than it sounds to other people, where your voice is going through the air and then eventually getting to them. So and even with different microphones, right? Like, this microphone has a different diaphragm than that microphone, or your phone's microphone, or my computer microphone. So I sound different depending on what microphone I'm using. I don't know. I don't have a great answer to that, other than to say most people aren't as judgmental about your voice as you are. You're going to be your own toughest critic about your voice. Everyone else, you sound normal. And some people have said to me throughout my career, I know I'm sick, so I don't really sound like it right now, but people have complimented my radio voice, if you will. But you don't need to have like a radio voice in order to talk on the radio or on TV or in a video. Like, what you say is so much more important than how you say it. Think about all the people that are doing their own voiceover on TikTok, or even using the terrible sounding automatic voiceover, and how bad that is, right? Like, people don't really care as much about how bad you sound so much as what you're saying. Do you guys want to see a New Hampshire video? New Hampshire related video? Are you all from New Hampshire, most of you, or no? Any Massachusetts people here? Yeah, nice. All right. Well, the Massachusetts people, I think, will be able to relate to this one too. This is also a part 1 and 2 video. I don't know why I'm going with like most of my longest videos today. I'm sorry about that, but this is a fun one.
You can't hear a sign, can you? Unless you're from New England.
Water country,
Water country.
water country. Vocals. Thank you.
Have some fun. Dun dun dun.
Does it make you happy?
It does.
Hey, what?
Holy, I'm like your biggest fan, bro.
But no one ever talks about who wrote that song. Who is the mastermind behind the masterpiece?
There's all kinds of lore and tales about who wrote it. When did they write it? Is there a mysterious second verse?
It's 40 years old now. We'll never be able to find him, right?
Have some fun.
Oh, there he is.
Have some.
His name is Tom Roussel.
My claim to fame is that I composed, produced, recorded the Water Country jingle.
Wait a minute. Is that the sheet music right there I'm looking at?
Yes, it is.
No way.
Yeah.
The year was 1984. Tom was fresh out of Berkeley working for a jingle company. One day they got a call from a new water park in Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Come up with some words, weather, warm, having fun, summer sun, feel and be young. I remember the owner of the jingle house saying to me, "What does that even mean? Feel and be young."
Come on, make it feel and be young.
The whole process took him about 3 days, 2 to compose and 1 to record.
Water country. Have some fun.
Water country, water country, water country.
As I recall, I made about $400. What did I know? I was a country boy from Sonnet, Massachusetts.
Not that this makes up for it, but there are serious bragging rights here and airplay, probably more than most pop singers.
I never would have imagined that in almost 40 years, we're still hearing the same song, more or less, and people are still talking about it. It blows my mind.
Water country, water country, water country. Have some fun.
From the country, I'm Matt Shearer. For more, ask Alexa to play WBZ News Radio on iHeartRadio.
It's the summer sun. Rich Valley action, have some fun. There'll be nothing but good times for everyone. Water country, have some fun. It's rotating, it feels so hot. You walk fast, water country's the spot. Come on in, you can feel like you're young. Water country, water country, water country. So fun. Water country. Have some fun.
To tell you the truth, I've never been.
What?
So, gosh, that was such a satisfying story to do because that was a random idea I had come up with. For those of us who, if you're not from New England here, that song, that Water Country jingle gets played on the radio and on TV every single summer. So much that it's become like this beloved jingle where people just get really excited about it. And I had been wondering for a long time, like, who wrote that song? Like, what is their life like? And I managed to track him down. And oh my God, I remember I was so excited when I got the message back from him after days after I had initially messaged him. And he said, yes, he was the guy and he was down for an interview. And, that was, you saw at the end there, he lives in Connecticut now. So that was a story that I recorded in 3 different states, right? Like I had to go up to New Hampshire to go to Water Country. I recorded down in Connecticut with him. And then I felt like after I was sitting down with all the audio, I felt like something was missing. So that's when I got all the random people on the street, like kind of singing the Water Country jingle to demonstrate just how ingrained it is in our New England brains. And I did that near my home here in Massachusetts. So that was a 3-state thing. It took a long time and several days worth of work, but oh my God, was it so worth it. And of course you heard at the very end there, his little, surprise twist that he had never been to Water Country. So you know what I had to do next, right? Let me share my screen here.
A couple weeks ago, I introduced you to the guy that wrote this jingle.
Water country.
His name is Tom Roussel.
As I recall, I made about $400. Have some fun.
But at the end of that interview, Tom dropped this major plot twist.
To tell you the truth, I've never been.
What? So I got in touch with Water Country and they said, we need to change that now. Hey, Tom.
How are you, Matt?
You excited?
Ready to have some fun.
There is no better place to feel or be.
That's what the song says.
Do you realize who this is?
I do realize who it is. I saw the news report. Very excited to meet you.
We're here. It's really clean, really bright. Looks like some fun rides.
And this is the person who put pen to paper and wrote that Water Country jingle 40 years ago.
After a swimming ovation, Tom was among the first to hear Water Country's newest jingle by DJ Pup Dog.
What a country. What a country.
And I can confidently say that he had some fun.
I'm lost for words. They were all, kind and saying wonderful things about the song, about me. I'm really appreciative.
Imagine how his family feels.
I've been bragging about this forever. So, yep. No, nobody believes me. I know.
And now you can prove it.
Yeah.
I hope he knows that, for all of New England, he is sort of the man. Yeah, I did just tell him he's got lifetime passes as far as I'm concerned.
And what about seeing the reaction of people like singing along to your version in the water and everything?
Well, it's what I expected.
From Water Country, I'm Matt Shearer. For more, ask Alexa to play WBZ News Radio on iHeartRadio. I knew that was going to happen.
Have some fun.
So, actually this is a completely random aside, but I don't know if you noticed, there's a very quick clip of somebody walking around Water Country with like a falcon in there, and there's that random shot. I ended up doing like a full-on interview with that person while I was there and turning it into a different story that I didn't make into a video, but it aired on the radio. Apparently her job is literally to walk around Water Country with a falcon and scare away seagulls and like other birds and stuff. It's fascinating. Squirrels, whatever. Like that's literally her job. So I did a whole story on that. Kind of wish I had made that into a video, to be honest, but it was just such a spur of the moment thing. I didn't really have enough like video clips, and plus I was focused very much on getting this story with Tom at Water Country. So that was a fun one. They got a lot of backlash for that new jingle, by the way, the one that DJ Pup Dog made. They had to kind of backtrack on that a little bit. Yeah, any other questions before I pull up another video? Okay. Let me this is kind of a silly one, but it was a fun one. So I was going off to cover the New England Boat Show, which is where the Boston Convention Center, they have this massive room with hundreds and hundreds of boats, and like yacht club type people show up, and they're all like, trying to pick out what boat they want. And I knew that there were going to be millions of people, or not millions, sorry. There were going to be a ton of other reporters there. I knew that everyone was going to be basically doing the same interviews and having the same story. And I was like, what can I do that's like a little bit different and fun? And what I came up with was I decided to have my friend come along, and I had him dress up as a pirate. And I just did a story normally, but I had him in the background of almost every single shot. And I just never addressed him, never talked to him, never explained him. And people were getting in the comments being like, what's up with the pirate? Like, and other people were like, wait, I didn't see a pirate. I just watched again. Oh my gosh, what's his deal? And it just turned into this whole weird, random, funny thing. And so let's watch that one. See how many, see if you can catch the pirate.
Right now, there's one room in Boston with over 400 boats. You can freely climb on them and pretend to be rich for a while.
So where do you want to go? What do you want to see? Something yachty or?
Yeah, a little yachty. Gary Wabel is my tour guide here at the New England Boat Show.
Do you want to hop in the water while you're here? Do you want to hop aboard a yacht while you're here?
Yeah.
Do you want to like blast some music and dance on a boat while you're here?
Yes.
It was sick. What's this button do? Sorry.
So it was you.
Most of these boats were nicer than my house. And the people were pretty nice too.
Oh, hey. Hang out? Perfect.
I'm a water sign. I love the water.
That's Trevor, who drove all the way from Burlington, Vermont to make a big purchase.
These boats suck.
Why?
They're little lake boats. They're not what I'm into. I like big boats.
And you cannot lie. He quickly took a liking to me.
I would take you to Vegas 5 days for free. It's really deep, dude. Like when you start thinking about it, life is short, life is sweet, life is good. 2 high notes. You're one of my besties.
So maybe I didn't leave with $1 million yacht. Friendship is priceless.
From the Boat Show, I'm Matt Shearer. For more, ask Alexa to play WBZ News Radio on iHeartRadio.
Arr.
So again, just a fun thing that I could do that I thought like no other reporter there who is gonna think to do that. And the people who run the boat show were thrilled. They loved the idea. They were happy with how it came out, and it made it fun for me. Here's a video I did. So this was a random idea I had while I was in Boston at Boston Public Library. Has anyone ever been there? Boston Public Library in Copley Square. Beautiful, beautiful space. They have this one room that looks like straight up out of a Harry Potter movie. And it's their quiet room. But the problem is the chairs in that room are anything but quiet. And so I wanted to do a story about that, but rather than just report on it, I thought it might be fun to come up with a solution. So here we go.
Boston Public Library is a good place to relax, especially in Bates Hall. Oh, sorry. Especially Bates Hall, the quiet room. We can come study wizardry or whatever in peace. But for decades, that peace has been disturbed by the chairs. Are we being loud? Some almost sound musical. Others sound, that just sounded like flatulence.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. But it wasn't, just in case you were wondering.
Okay.
But I've been saying for years that the solution is simple.
You might be a genius.
It seems like some other genius tried this decades ago, but a redo is long overdue. So I'm taking matters into my own hands and everyone else's legs. Is this an ad? No, I'm just trying to make a difference in people's lives. You just went right to a different table. Yeah, bro, I gotta work, man. Is it because of me? I'm in class, bro.
Yeah, it's a lot quieter.
Okay, you're welcome. From the BPL, hold on one sec. Okay. From the BPL, I'm Matt Shearer. For more, ask Alexa to play WBZ News Radio on iHeartRadio. That was a little loud too.
Maybe we should put some stickies in.
Okay, try it now.
That's awesome. Making the world a quieter place. A couple stickies at a time.
Shh.
Sorry.
So that was a fun one to do. And I must admit, I did not clear that one with the library in advance. I just kind of went in and did it. I don't think they were super psyched about that, but no one's really in trouble. Whatever, it's a public library, right? It's the public space to go in and do what we will. But again, that was just me kind of, just being out and about in the world and coming up with an idea and having a vision for it and getting excited and going out and doing it.
Matt, can you talk about your shooting process? I know you shoot on your phone, but do you use any sort of stabilization? And what do you look for when you're out there? Like, I noticed you have cutaways, like in the Duncan story, there's like the cigarette with the Duncan thing. In the library story, you have the pen floating. You get like funny cutaways too. Talk about your shooting process and what you edit on too.
Thank you. Yeah. So, you're right. I do it all on my phone. I don't have any sort of stabilization hardware, like no, what do you call those giblet things? Whatever they are.
Gimbal.
Thank you. What is a giblet? What is that? Is that like?
I think that's turkey related.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm thinking about Thanksgiving. I'm clearly hungry. Oh my god, that's hilarious.
I'm being told it's a crock thing. It goes in the Crocs. Giblet.
Oh yes, that's exactly what it is. I'm not a crock wearer, so that's on me. My kids are, but not me. So so I didn't have a Gimmel giblet thing. I was given one by the station, but I didn't like it just because it was too difficult to control and like less convenient than being able to just kind of put something in my pocket. So my phone, I guess, does have pretty decent stabilization built in, to the phone itself. So I feel pretty good about that. As far as like the cutaways, yeah, I'm looking for stuff that's a little bit more interesting or, visually interesting than your typical B-roll. I don't know, that I feel like that makes it more of a reason to watch, not maybe not even just once, but maybe watch again or keep people's interest throughout. So yeah, like when I'm walking around the Boston Public Library and I see a little pen floating in the fountain of this otherwise pristine, beautiful room, I'm like, yeah, let's get a shot of that. That's different. That's unique. There's this random space here where there's supposed to be a statue, but there's no statue. I'll go stand in there and pose and, make it interesting in that regard. So, but that's something that also kind of came with practice and doing it over and over and over again and realizing at certain times, I wish I had more meaningful cutaways, more meaningful B-roll, and kind of having fun with that and keeping an eye out for visually stimulating or interesting things. Excuse me. Sorry. Hold on one second. Just had to turn my mic down. We have in radio and live radio stations, we have a cough button. Literally, it's a button that says cough on it. And you just hold it down when you need to cough. Go into any radio station. I guarantee you'll see a cough button. Anyways, you asked also about like my editing and stuff and how I do that. So, I touched on this a little earlier. When it comes to audio, I'm much more particular. So I'll record my audio really nice with good microphones and a good recorder, and I'll edit it in Pro Tools, which is like the Cadillac of audio editing programs. It's a really fancy audio, and it's because that's what I used in my background as an audio producer and a actually not a music producer, but radio producer. It's what it's the one that most professional musicians are using as well, because there's a huge learning curve, but once you figure it out, you can make pretty much any sound you want, and you can polish things to sound really, really great. So I like Pro Tools. You can still do quality audio editing in other programs like Adobe Audition. That's come a long way. There are even free or close to free programs like Reaper that a lot of people like. Even GarageBand, which is not my favorite because it doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles, but to get you started, like you can do a lot of really great stuff in GarageBand now too, just for practice. So once I'll literally do all the audio without the video first, and I'll kind of be visualizing in my head what it's going to be looking like, and like if I'll be making references to any shots, and then I'll take that audio clip and go in and apply the video. So I'll have to like sync it up in post, which is definitely an extra step that adds time to my editing, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to all of you, but it's just kind of what works for me, being like an audio guy. I would say whatever program you use, if you edit your audio and video at the same time, that's fine. But please pay attention to the audio and like try to make it sound good, because good sounding audio and bad sounding audio is the difference between a video that's genuinely immersive and you know in captivating. I don't know what the word would be for, but I think immersive is you get fully immersed in a video when the audio feels real and it has a lot of nat sound and it has, you know, a lot of ambiance that makes you feel like you're there, as opposed to very choppy, not great sounding audio where you can hear the edits. Try and smooth it out as much. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the concept of room tone, but that's when you're out recording in the field. After you finish your interview, you sit there with the microphone and you just don't say anything for 30 seconds to a minute. And that gives you like a nice long just piece of just ambiance that you can set underneath all the conversations so that they all flow and sound like they're tied together. And it doesn't sound like you're cut between being in the library and then being out on the street where there's like cars and stuff. You don't hear those cuts. It's much more smoothed over. Cross-fading is really important, right? While one's fading out, the other's fading in. Use some processing if you know how to do that. If you have the capability to adjust the EQ, you know, the equalization, so you can adjust specific frequencies in the audio. For example, you know, the really low end of the audible spectrum is a lot of just kind of like rumbling and bassy stuff that doesn't really need to be there. Make it sound a little brighter. So you add what's called a high pass filter, where everything higher than that gets a pass and it's allowed. So you kind of roll off and like get rid of some of the low rumbling that doesn't need to be there. Leave some of the mid range where our voices lie. And then, you know, maybe pop up the higher end too for the sibilants and the T's and the you know, just the bright, to give it a brighter sound so that it doesn't all sound very muffled and mumbly. Like you can hear those consonants and understand what the person's saying. I think all of that stuff is really important. And it sounds so silly because I'm like giving you all these tips on, and I also want to say compression is really important too. That's the plugin or the tool that makes sure that, the highs don't get too high, right? Like the really loud parts aren't super loud and the soft parts aren't too quiet, right? Like compression kind of balances that out a little bit. You can even do that just manually, going in and adjusting the gain on certain parts of your audio clips so that the people watching don't have to constantly be turning stuff up or down and missing great lines because it was too quiet. It's funny because I'm going into the weeds here when it comes to audio, but when it comes to video, I'll do all that editing mostly on my phone, if I'm being quite honest with you, because like I said, that's where all the video is being shot. So all the footage is already stored there on the phone. And, you know, that's where it's going to exist when I post it on social media. So it's just convenient for me to do it there.
Did we have we got about 5 minutes left. I just want to make sure.
Sorry, I rambled a lot, guys. I apologize for that.
Yeah, Melissa has a question here.
It's really super quick. What kind of phone do you have? Because you keep telling me that you shoot on your phone. I just was curious what kind of phone you have.
Oh my gosh, you guys are going to hate me. I use an Android, Samsung Galaxy. I'm telling you guys, like this whole smear campaign that you see in the memes about Android having bad video quality, that must be by Big Apple Corporation paying for those memes, because there are some Android phones out there with some really, really good quality video. Not that my stuff is all really, really good quality, but it's good enough. It passes the test.
Did we have any other questions online? Oh, got one right here.
Just curious, are you trying to like expand on what you're doing, maybe branching out to like other states, or maybe doing like longer form content? Like, what are your...
You mean in terms of like my career, or in terms of like what we do with WBZ?
I mean, like both, you know, are you looking to try to like branch out, like try to expand on your operations?
It's interesting because, you know, with WBZ News Radio, we try to focus on our listening area, right? Because we have an ultimate goal here, and that's to get people to be aware of what we're doing on WBZ and maybe ask their smart speaker to play us or listen to us on the iHeartRadio app, listen to one of our podcasts. And so far it's been working. Like there's a whole generation of people like yourselves who maybe never press the AM button on your car radio, so you otherwise wouldn't know that a station like WBZ exists. But because we've had a lot of success on social media, we've seen our ratings go up in your younger demographic, meaning ages 18 to 24. And we think there's a correlation there with what we're doing on social media. So, we try to stay within our listening area because we serve a certain local audience. We're a local news operation. We want to make sure that the people who are, watching, following, listening, can relate to the stories because they're maybe close to their house or something. On a personal level, I'm under contract right now with WBZ, so I'm here for a while. If I know I'll be honest, other people have reached out, other stations, national media operations, other local operations. And so it's nice to know that I'll have options someday when my contract expires if I want to. But I also feel like we're building something really great here at WBZ. We're building community and, really celebrating this region that we love of, Southern New England and the greater Boston area. And so it's, I feel like we're on a really great path, and I would hate to just kind of like abandon that to go pursue, my own selfish big dreams. But I don't know. It's definitely something that I'm going to have to consider. But luckily, again, because of the contract, it's not something I have to consider right now.
Anything else from anybody else online? Any advice, Matt, you could give to, we have some sophomores, but mostly juniors and seniors who are going to be looking for jobs here soon.
Yeah. Okay. So, a couple things. For one, and I actually was just homesick last night doing a little AMA on my Instagram, and people were asking me questions, and somebody asked me something about like advice for students, and I said this, and I'll say it again, so sorry if I'm being redundant, but just start making stuff right now, right? Like the fact that I'm able to do this for a living on my Android phone, I'm telling you, you've got all the tools you need in your pocket. Like, yeah, it may not sound or look as great as like the really high quality equipment, but like you're learning the principles of shooting and editing, and like that's so important. You're learning about being on camera, and being in college is a great time to be bad at it, to learn from your mistakes. I still make tons of mistakes all the time, and it's okay. I learn from it, and I'm grateful for it. So just get to work now, because when you do graduate and you do go to apply for other businesses, you want to work in a newsroom, they're going to be less concerned about what your diploma says and more concerned about what can you do, right? Like, what do you already know how to do? Can you edit a video? Can you put together a coherent news package? If you can already do those things and you have a reel to show it, to prove it, then that's going to put you a step above the competition. So start working at it right now and be locked and loaded for when you're ready to graduate.
Awesome advice. Well, we're right at 5:00. Want to be cognizant of everybody's time, but where can people follow you, Matt?
Yeah. So Instagram is at Reporter Matt. That's the best way to see just kind of like all my stuff. TikTok, we're at WBZ News Radio. I actually don't even do a personal TikTok account for myself just because all the videos I'm making are for WBZ anyways, and I don't have time to make my own personal videos. So yeah, you can check us out there. You'll see other reporters on that account as well, other than myself, but WBZ News Radio there. If you have any other questions afterwards, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn or if you want to, and I'm always happy to answer and help.
Thank you very much, Matt. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you everybody for your time. This was great.
See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
See you later.